Good morning, Brother Randy.
Morning.
Today was the first day my alarm clock went off. Ooh, scared the heck out of me. I didn't know how loud it was. How's the family?
Oh, everybody's good.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So today we're going to be going to Matthew 15 through 17. So 15, 16, and 17 we're going to get through today. This is the seventh day of 2021. Let's see here. This should be Aunt Debbie. Aunt Debbie, that's you, right? So good morning. I hope everybody had a great night's sleep and they're gonna enjoy this beautiful day. I looked outside as I made my cup of coffee and it's gonna be a nice day. But today in chapter 15 and 16 and 17, kind of a continuation, he still talks about parables and everything. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning, sweetheart. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, and you're not double sounding neither.
Well, I didn't put this one. I hooked up yesterday.
I was wondering who George was. So Randy, yesterday, remember when Aunt Debbie was talking and she was being double? She was George on her iPad. So
Okay.
Yeah, he had bought me this iPad years ago. So
awesome. So we're going to get started because it's 7:02. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. And this is Matthew 15. Traditions and commandments. Then Pharisees and scribes came to Jesus from Jerusalem and said, "Why do you disciples break the tradition of elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat." He answered them, and this is Jesus talking, "And why do you break the commandment of God for the sake of your tradition? For God commanded, honor your father and your mother, and whoever reviles father or mother must surely die. But you say, if anyone tells his father or his mother, what would you have gained from me is given to God. He need not honor his father. So for the sake of your tradition, you have made void the word of God. You hypocrites. Well, did Isaiah prophesy of you when he said, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrine as commandments of men." And in Matthew 15:10, he says, "And he called the people to him and he said to them, hear and understand. It is not what goes in the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of the mouth that defiles a person." And when I first read this, I was thinking, okay, so is he talking about the hoofed animals or so forth of that nature? But then listen to what he said. It's not what goes in the mouth. So it's not what we eat. It's what we speak. And we'll get into this a little deeper here. Then the disciples came and said to him, "Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying?" He answered, "Every plant that my Father has not planted will be rooted up. Let them alone. They are blind guides. And if the blind lead the blind, both will fall into a pit." But Peter said to him, "Explain the parable to us." And he said, "Are you also still without understanding? Do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is expelled? But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart and defiles a person. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murders, adultery, sexual morality, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a person. But to eat with unwashed hands, it does not defile anyone." The faith of a Canaanite woman. And Jesus went away from there and withdrew to district of Tyre and Sidon. If you remember, Tyre and Sidon was on the Dead Sea, a little to the northwest of the Galilee where Jesus stayed. From that region came out and was crying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. my daughter is severely oppressed by a demon. But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came and begged him, saying, send her away, for she is crying out after us. He answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. When I first read that, it kind of caught me off guard. But we know from our previous teachings is that he wasn't going out to the Gentiles and so forth yet. Oh, I apologize. I totally apologize, Becky and Ronnie. I didn't realize y'all. I had to make this thing ding so I can know when somebody's sitting waiting to come in the room. So I totally apologize for that. We're at Matthew 15:24. He answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But she came and knelt before him and saying, Lord, help me. And he answered, it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. Now, when I read that, I was like, wait a second. You're helping the Israelites. So they're the children. And so we were the dogs. He said, yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. Then Jesus answered her, oh, woman, great is your faith. I don't know how many times they say the word faith in the Bible, but you ever notice that every time faith is said, something great happens? O woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire. And her daughter was healed instantly. Jesus went on from there and walked beside the Sea of Galilee. And he went up the mountain and sat down there. And great crowds came to him, bringing with them the lame, the blind, the crippled, and the mute, and many others. And they put them at the feet, and he healed them. So the crowd wondered, and when they saw the mute speaking, the crippled healthy, the lame walking, and the blind seeing, they glorified God of Israel. Jesus is fixing to feed 4,000. Remember yesterday he fed 5,000. Today, then Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion on this crowd because they have been with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I am unwilling to send them away hungry, lest the faint on the way. And the disciples said to him, where are we to get enough bread in such a desolate place to feed such a great crowd? And Jesus said to him, how many loaves do you have? They said 7, and a few small fish. And directing the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and having given thanks, broke them and gave them to the disciples. And the disciples gave them to the crowds, and they all ate and were satisfied. They took up 7 basketfuls of the broken pieces left over. Those who ate were 4,000 men, besides women and children. And after sending away the crowds, he got into the boat and went to the region of Magadan. Okay, so that's 2 days in a row that Jesus had fed multitudes with little, and it goes to that. What's that old saying? Feed a man a fish, feed him today, teach him to fish, feed him a lifetime, or something of that nature. I always think of that when I read that parable. So let's talk real quick before we move on to Matthew 16. And Debbie's ready to read today, aren't you, Debbie?
I will try. I've not got it buzzing in here.
So in this here, the biggest thing that I got out of this was it's not what goes into our mouth, it's what comes out our mouth. And as you get older, I think you start, and I worry about this country. I worry every day, and I pray about it so much, but so much is coming out of people's mouths, and we don't step back and try to be more Christ-like. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he said maybe Christ is telling me to stand up, and I want to say act crazy, but I understand. Number one, we live in the greatest country on this earth. Number two, we have to be governed. And I'm a true believer that Jesus Christ puts those people there. Now, I may not like the process. There's a lot of the processes in life that I don't like, but who am I to challenge what Jesus Christ has done? You know, and once again, I don't want to turn this into a political bit, so let me just jump out by that. Anybody got anything they want to say about Matthew 15? Randy?
No, because I was on a phone call at work most of it. So I read it, but I don't have anything to say about
Ronnie,
it.
you got anything about chapter 15 before we go to 16?
Nope, nothing specific.
Well, okay, so we're going to go to chapter 16. And Becky, it's so good to see you. And Moto E5 Go, so good to see you. And Debbie, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Y'all ready?
You go, young lady.
Okay. Chapter 16. Then the Pharisees and Sadducees came and tested him and asked that he would show them a sign from heaven. He answered and said to them, when it is evening, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and threatening. Hypocrites, you know how to descend the face of the sky, but you cannot deceive the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign shall be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left then and departed. Now, when the disciples had come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Jesus said to them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. I'm not good at words.
That's
And they reasoned among themselves, saying, it is because we have taken no bread. But Jesus, be aware of it, said to them, O you of little faith, why do you reason among yourselves, because you have brought no bread? Do you not yet understand or remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000 and how many baskets you took up? Nor the 7 loaves of the 4,000 and how many large baskets you took up? How is it you do not understand that I did not speak to you concerning bread, but to be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, or however? Then they understood that he did not tell them to beware of the leavening of bread, but of the doctoring of the Pharisees and Sadducees. When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? So they said, some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremy, or one of the prophets. He said to them, but who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answered and said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus answered and said to him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on the rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you lose on earth, you will lose in heaven. You will lose in heaven. Then he commanded his disciples that they should tell no one that he was Jesus the Christ. From that time, Jesus began to show to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised the third day. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, far be it from you, Lord, this shall not happen to you. But he turned and said to Peter, get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me, for you are not mindful of the things of God, but the things of men. I didn't know Peter was Satan. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up the cross and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what profit is it to man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man will come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he will reward each according to his works. But surely I say to you, there are some standing here who shall not taste death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
And so a couple things in there. The leavened bread, he talked about the leavened bread and how, if you remember yesterday in the parable, how the leavened bread, it can take and spread through a lot of dough, and it can spread the bad word or it spread the good word. So that's what it was talking about, the leavened bread. And then when he was talking to Peter, if you'll remember, he revealed and what I'm guessing, Ronnie, one of y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but he revealed to his disciples what he was going to go through in the death, burial, and the resurrection. And when he did that, Peter pulled him aside and was saying, no, God. I think Peter even said, I'll die for you or something like that. But Peter was like, no, we're not going to let this happen. And what Peter didn't realize is it had to happen. That's why why Jesus said, get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance for me, for you are not setting your mind on things of God, but on the things of man. Because he didn't want Jesus to die. So he's saying, hey, get that devil talk. Let's call it devil talk. Once again, I'm not 100% sure of this, but that's what I got from it, was that he wasn't calling him Satan. He was saying Satan's living worse, because bad things can come out of our mouth. Remember, he talked a little while ago about what comes out of our mouth. And so he's saying, get behind me, Satan. And as he goes down here, he talks about one of the, he talks about building the house on the rock. That's pretty strong in this passage here. Anybody else got anything? That was chapter 16. Anybody like to take chapter 17? This will be the last one of the day. Ronnie, you the man.
I'll do it. Let me get there first.
No problem. And if you don't ever want to read, it's no big deal.
It's no problem.
Offer everybody the opportunity to read God's word.
It's good to read. What version of the Bible are y'all using, or y'all care if I use the new
You use whatever one you want to.
Okay. So Matthew 17. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. Just then there appeared before them Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell face down to the ground, terrified. But Jesus came and touched them.
I can eat. Right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. But Jesus came and touched them. Get up, he said. Don't be afraid. When they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus instructed them, Don't tell anyone what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. The disciples asked him, Why then do teachers of the law say that Elijah must come first? Jesus replied, to be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but have done to him everything they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. When they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him. You unbelieving and perverse generation, Jesus replied, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked, why couldn't we drive it out? He replied, because you have so little faith. Truly, I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you.
Mm.
It's a pretty wild thought. Continuing with verse 22. When they came together in Galilee, he said to them, the Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and on the third day, he will be raised to life. And the disciples were filled with grief. After Jesus and his disciples arrived in Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma temple tax came to Peter and asked, doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax? Yes, he does, he replied. When Peter came into the house, Jesus was the first to speak. What do you think, Simon? He asked. From who do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes? From their own children and from others, or from others? From others, Peter answered. Then the children are exempt, Jesus said to him. But so that we may not cause offense, go to the lake and throw out your line. Take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a 4 drachma coin. Take it and give it to them for my tax and yours.
Is that not crazy?
Yeah, that gets a little strange at the end, but I don't understand the the very last part, even though I it's been a long time since I read that part, but it's all about going and paying the tax, but I don't understand the very last part about
Maybe it was just another one of his miracles, showing a miracle. Whatever I say happens. I don't know, but to be honest with you, Ronnie, that's the first time I've read or even heard that. It sounds like we're going to learn some more down the road, which I wrote a couple notes. They talked about Elijah. Maybe this is because of where we started in the Bible. Was John the Baptist Elijah? Because he said he's already came before me. Elijah's already came before me. So I'm taking it then. You could tell Jesus got a little upset when the man came to him. And if you've ever owned a business and somebody comes to you in your business and they say, your employee did this, your employee did this. You're like, so then what was it Jesus said? Ye of little faith. I didn't know if he was saying ye of little faith. Is it the dad that didn't have faith, or was it his disciples? And that was reason that, because he come and said your disciples were unable to heal him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what do you think? What are your thoughts?
I feel the same way. Like, you lose your faith, you lose your ability to overcome things. lose your ability to have the power of God affect you, you know, during that time, you know, and it happens to all of us, you know, in times of stress or angst or, you know, great pressures or depression or, you know, anything that affects your death of a loved one, you know, and you can lose your faith momentarily, you know, and you have the same thing happen to you, only differently, that you lose your ability to cope with things, you know, happens to me all the time. And then you hear the word again, you know, and you're able to ground you again and get your faith, and then you can accomplish things again. But you have to always go running back, you know, just like my Sunday school teacher that at my church, which haven't been to in almost a year physically. Um, but you know, you got to go running back to Jesus, you know.
That's exactly right. And David, I know that in your life, a lot has happened over this last year with Paul passing away and everything of that nature. And you kind of spearheading everything there in Newton, Texas. So there's not any of us that are immune from these situations. And, you know, Ronnie, I was hearing what you're saying, and as you were saying that, I was going through my mind, we have to maintain that faith. And the problem is that we try to carry it all on our shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
our shoulders aren't strong enough. We're not big enough.
Mm-mm.
You know, and we have to put it down. And Jesus continues to tell us this, you know, that through faith, I mean, Peter walked on water yesterday through faith. And then just the faith of a mustard seed. You know, I know that there's been times in my life, and I'm not questioning in no way, shape, or fashion, but I'll be driving down, especially when I was up in Colorado. I can remember it like it was yesterday, driving down the road and saying, you know, I feel like I have a strong faith. Is my move that mountain? You know, I don't know that we could ever have, or let me say it like this, because I like to believe I've got faith and trust in everything. There was a time where I didn't feel I had any troubles or anything of that nature, and I got them, and boom, I'm through them. And I don't think, and I'm not challenging once again, but I don't think anything can happen on this earth that I can't get through. Because my ultimate goal is not here. My ultimate goal is in heaven with Jesus Christ. That's my ultimate goal. I don't care. Whatever happens here, I can deal with. You know, I think back to the guys that were captured in Vietnam, those guys that were there for years in captivity. They probably thought many a day, I can't do this. I can't do this. But their faith got them through. I think of those kind of things. So day 7, tomorrow will be day 8. I want to thank you, loyal people for sticking in here. And as I can't remember if it was Ryan that said the other day, I think this is part of our journey. And for some reason, we're all waking up and we're all getting a piece of the word. And I love when other people read, because it's easy to sit and listen to somebody else, but I want to help everybody take part in it. Okay, so I want everybody to have a great, great day. Anybody got anything else they want to plug in with? Sound like Randy had a busy morning this morning.
Yeah, it's always a busy morning. I already had a meeting at 6 a.m. You know, I work for BP, and so half of the people I work with are in London, you know.
Oh my goodness, I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah. 2 or 3 days a week. Like my Mondays start off with a 6 a.m. conference call every week, and then every other Thursday I have another 6 a.m. conference call.
I'm gonna in closing, I'm gonna read this to you real quick. And this was something Randy sent me yesterday, and I put it in my group thing. Go to the ant, O sluggard, observe their ways and be wise, which having no chief officer or ruler, prepares her food in the summer and gathers her provisions in the harvest. I can't think of a guy in this group, guy or girl in this group, that would be considered a sluggard. All of you are hard workers and dedicated to your trade. I do believe that we all have a tendency to be spiritually lazy. What I mean by this is that we can sometimes take our walk with the Lord for granted and not spend time with him. Or we know of a calling God has put on our lives and we ignore it. Assume someone else will do it. We have to be deliberate in our faith. We have to be deliberate in our faith. That word faith just keeps pumping up. God calls us to be the leaders of our families, churches, and communities. We have to seek out time to fellowship with God. 7 a.m., we're seeking out the time. We have to be alert and seize opportunity to share the gospel. And where we really get it wrong is by dropping our kids off at church and not taking and leading in their spiritual growth. God is calling us to be players. I like this. God is calling us to be players, not spectators. So today, I challenge all 5 of us to look and listen for someone to, I'm not saying go out and say, hey, do you know Jesus or anything like that, but just listen to give a kind word. Maybe someone that you've been thinking about. Ronnie, I immediately thought about when you said your old Sunday school teacher. You know, those are the kind of things that as I'm sitting around, I'll pick up my phone and just text and say, thinking about you today. So everybody in this group today, either text, call, or somebody and just tell them you're thinking about them. What that does for other people is it lifts them up, okay? And isn't that what we're called to do? Because we're not called to do life alone.
Right.
We need to do life with other people. And when Randy sent me that yesterday, to be honest with you, it overjoyed me. Okay, I love you, and we're gonna get ready to close here. Randy, good to see you. Are you headed to work and everything?
Yeah, I spend, man, some days, I don't get started till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at, as far as work, but in the oil field, it starts early. So, never shuts down. So they've been calling me all morning.
There you go. Well, listen, I love all of y'all.
Which is a good thing.
There you go. Well, I love all of y'all. And I'm fixing to close in prayer. Let me keep my hat on. My hair is kind of crazy. I'm going bald again, it feels like. My hair won't fill out. I need hair like Ron. Okay, so let's close in prayer. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for this wonderful world you've given us. I thank you for these people in this fellowship that you put before me every morning, Lord. Thank you for your leadership, your guidance. Give us the discernment, Lord. Help us today to find somebody to bless them. Lord, thank you for our children. Help us to lead and guide them. Help us to be players and not spectators, God. I thank you so, so much for all you've given me. Most of all, Lord, I want to thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, who died, was buried, and resurrected in 3 days. Lord, I love you with all my heart and all my soul. Bless each of these families. I love you, God. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen. Amen. Y'all have a great day today. Peace out.
You too. Bye.